Think about the last time you spent hours composing a response in your head for someone who didn't deserve a single word from you. You explained, you justified, you proved your point, and they still didn't believe you. Or worse, they took your own words and used them against you. You didn't lose because you had weak arguments. You lost because you showed up to the fight at all. Machiavelli wrote something that most people conveniently skip over. He said that a man who is governed by his own emotions cannot govern others. Not ever. The moment you react, you are being led. The moment you explain, you are being judged. And the moment you engage with someone who was never looking for truth, only for leverage, you hand them everything they need to control you. Here's what this video is going to do. It's going to show you 7 psychological principles that will completely rewire the way you move through the world. Not to make you cold, not to make you cruel, but to make you impossible to manipulate, impossible to predict, and impossible to ignore, precisely because you stop reacting to things that don't deserve your energy. But I have to warn you, once you understand how this works, you will start seeing it everywhere. In your relationships, at work, in conversations you've been having for years. And you will realize you have been the one giving away your power this entire time. We are not starting with what you should do. We are starting with what you are doing right now that is silently destroying your position. Let's begin. 1. Your attention is power. Every time you give it away for free, you lose. In the universe, objects with greater mass create gravitational fields. Smaller objects orbit around them, not the other way around. People work the same way. Every time you react to someone who doesn't deserve it, every time you respond to a hateful comment, explain yourself to someone who's already made up their mind, or engage with a person who feeds on your frustration, you are shrinking your mass. You are leaving your orbit and entering theirs. And once you're in their orbit, they control the motion. Most people have never thought about attention this way. They think attention is just focus, just where you look. But attention is currency. And like any currency, the moment you start spending it carelessly, you go broke. Think about the people who drain you, the ones who always have a problem, the ones who criticize everything you build, the ones who message you just to start something. Now ask yourself, what have you ever gotten back from giving them your attention? Anything real? Anything that made your life better? The answer is no. But they kept getting it anyway, because you haven't learned to be selective. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone in his era. He watched leaders destroy themselves not by being weak in battle, but by being weak in who they gave their energy to. He saw that a prince who tries to respond to every critic, explain himself to every doubter, and justify himself to every enemy wastes the most valuable resource he has, the resource that cannot be replaced. Here's what the real power players do. They don't respond to everything. They decide what deserves a response. They ask one question before giving anyone their time. Does this person actually matter to where I'm going? If the answer is no, they move on. No explanation, no hesitation. Most people think ignoring someone is rude or weak. It is neither. It is a declaration. It says, you do not exist in my reality. And there is nothing more powerful you can say to a person who is desperate for your reaction. Remember this, the most sought-after people in the world are not the most available. They are the most selective. The person who gives their attention to everyone is valued by no one. 2. Silence is the sharpest weapon you will ever own. You know why people fear silence? Because they were never taught what it actually is. They think silence means you have nothing to say. They think silence means you lost. They think that if you don't defend yourself, the world will assume the accusation is true. They are wrong. On every count, here is what silence actually does. The human brain is wired for closure. It cannot rest with an open loop. When something is unresolved, a question unanswered, a message unread, a confrontation without a conclusion, the brain keeps running that loop. over and over, searching, analyzing, creating narratives to fill the void. When you stay silent after someone attacks you, you leave their loop wide open, and they cannot close it. So their brain runs it for them. They replay the conversation. They create scenarios. They start questioning themselves. They do all the psychological work, and you haven't spent a single second on them. That is not passivity. That is warfare. Machiavelli wrote that the wise man adapts to the times, and sometimes the time demands not action, but complete absence. The leaders he studied who fell were not taken down by stronger enemies. They were taken down by their own mouths. They spoke when silence would have been devastating. They explained when mystery would have been terrifying. And Marcus Aurelius, a man who ruled an empire, said it plainly: "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Silence is where you practice that. Not in meditation, in real conflict. In the moment when everything in you wants to fight back, and you choose, deliberately, powerfully, not to. There's a difference between two kinds of silence. The silence of someone who wants to speak, but is afraid. That's weakness, and people can smell it. And the silence of someone who could destroy you with words but has decided you're not worth them, that is something else entirely. That silence has weight. It changes the temperature of a room. Try this. The next time someone attacks you, in person, online, anywhere, don't respond immediately. Hold eye contact if you're there in person. Let 4-5 seconds pass. Say nothing. Watch what happens to them. They will start filling that space. And everything they say in those next seconds will tell you exactly who you are dealing with. Silence doesn't mean saying nothing. It means saying everything, without spending a single word. 3. Disappear on your own terms. Here is a simple law of economics that most people never apply to themselves. Value is determined by scarcity. Water in the ocean has almost no value. Water in a desert is everything, not because the water changed, but because it became rare. Now look at how you show up in people's lives. Are you always available? Always responding within minutes? Always making time no matter what they need, no matter when they call? If you are the ocean, abundant, taken for granted, there when needed, forgotten when not. Machiavelli observed this in every court he studied. The leaders who commanded the deepest loyalty and attention were not the ones who were constantly present. They were the ones whose presence meant something, because it wasn't guaranteed. Every time they appeared, it carried weight. Every time they spoke, people leaned in, not because of what they said, but because they hadn't been there yesterday, and you never quite knew when they would show up again. This is not manipulation. This is calibration. There is a critical difference between ghosting and strategic withdrawal. Ghosting is running away. It's fear wearing the mask of control. Strategic withdrawal is different. You are still in the game. You are just no longer predictable, and what cannot be predicted cannot be controlled. Think about 3 different circles in your life. The people you want to keep. You don't need to be cold to them. You just stop being automatic. Sometimes warm, sometimes quiet, never something they can take for granted. The people on the edge. You show up when you have something real to offer, and you step back when you don't. And the people who have crossed a line, you don't confront them. You don't announce anything. You simply become unavailable, permanently, without a word of explanation. And that silence communicates everything. Because here is what nobody tells you about presence. When you are always there, your absence means nothing. When you are selective, your absence becomes a statement. People start wondering. They start reaching. They start valuing what they realize they cannot count on anymore. You don't need to disappear from the world. You need to make the world earn you. The one who is always there is eventually forgotten. The one who comes and goes is never quite gone from anyone's mind. I know there's someone specific in your mind right now, someone you've been wanting to respond to, A situation you've been turning over for days, maybe weeks. You're not just watching a video, you're watching your own life play out in front of you. What comes next is the part that matters most, because knowing this changes nothing unless you understand how to use it. 4. Ignoring someone is not avoiding a fight. It is winning one they don't know they're in. Most people think ignoring someone means avoiding conflict. It doesn't. It means choosing the most devastating form of it. Research from Kipling Williams at Purdue University found that being ignored activates the exact same regions of the brain as physical pain. Not metaphorical pain, actual neurological pain. When you are ignored, your brain processes it the same way it processes being hit. Because in the social world we evolved in, being invisible to your tribe meant death. When you ignore someone strategically, you are triggering that response. And unlike physical pain, there is nothing to fight against. No target, no confrontation, no moment where they can reclaim their dignity. Just nothing. There are two kinds of ignoring. The reactive kind, when you're so hurt or angry that you go silent out of emotion, that's still giving them power. They got to you. They can see it. The strategic kind is different. It's not emotional. It's surgical. You simply decide that this person does not generate a response from you. Not because you're upset, because they don't register. Machiavelli wrote that the most effective deception is not lying. It is making someone uncertain whether they exist in your reality at all. And this is exactly what strategic ignoring does. It forces them to face the question they are most terrified of. Am I relevant? Do I matter? Did any of this even land? They will go through stages. First, confusion. Did they see it? Is something wrong? Then, obsession. They replay every interaction, every word, looking for what shifted. Then, escalation. They try harder to get a reaction. They say something more extreme. They reach through mutual connections, and every move they make to get your attention while you give them nothing costs them status, composure, clarity. They are spending everything. You are spending nothing. That is not passivity. That is efficiency at its most brutal. The best part, you don't need to plan any of this. You don't need a strategy for each specific person. You just need one rule. If someone cannot add to your life, they do not get access to your reactions. Your reaction is proof of life to them. Stop proving it. The most ruthless punishment is not pain. It's invisibility. 5. Cut clean. 3 types of people destroying you right now, and how to remove each one. A surgeon performing a procedure on an infected limb does not cut everything, and they do not cut too little. They find the exact boundary between damaged tissue and healthy tissue, and they cut precisely there. Too little, and the infection spreads. Too much, and you lose something you didn't need to lose. Removing people from your life requires the same precision. Not every difficult person is the same. They don't operate the same way, and they don't require the same response. The first type, the active saboteur. This is the person openly working against you, spreading information, undermining your reputation, positioning themselves to benefit from your failure. The instinct is to confront them, to expose them, to make sure everyone sees what they're doing. Don't. Machiavelli was clear. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer, not out of warmth, but for observation. You let them believe they're succeeding. You keep building. You let your results do the only talking that matters. There is no revenge more complete than watching someone exhaust themselves trying to stop something that cannot be stopped. The second type, the spectator critic. This person has never built anything, never risked anything, never put themselves in a position where they could fail publicly. But they have opinions about everything you're doing. They dissect your decisions, your methods, your pace. Nassim Taleb called this precisely, no skin in the game. A person who bears no risk has no authority to judge the person who does. These people do not exist in your arena. They are in the stands, and you do not adjust your performance for the stands. The third type, the energy parasite. This is the most dangerous one because they come disguised as friendship. Every conversation leaves you more drained than before it started. They are not bad people. They are bottomless wells, and a bottomless well is not filled. It is sealed. Here is how you remove all three, and this is important. You do not announce it. You do not send the message explaining that you're pulling back. You do not create a dramatic exit. You fade. Responses get slower. Depth decreases. Frequency drops. And then silence. Clean. Complete. Without a fingerprint. Because leaving a trail gives them something to attack. And you are done being someone people can attack. Drop "I protect my energy" in the comments right now if you've recognized someone in one of these three types. Because what you do next will define everything. You don't need to hate someone to remove them. You just need to love yourself enough to do it. 6. Nothing gets through. How to build an internal wall that the outside world cannot break. Raw iron bends easily. A small amount of heat, a small amount of pressure, and it deforms. Steel is different. Steel is forged through extreme heat, sudden cold, repeated cycles. It doesn't become resistant by having less feeling. It becomes resistant because it has been through enough to stop being surprised by anything. That is what indifference actually is. Not the absence of emotion, the mastery of which emotions get to influence you and which ones don't. Most people are emotional hostages. Someone insults them, their entire day is poisoned. Someone questions their decision, they spiral into doubt. Someone withdraws attention, they chase. Their internal state is completely at the mercy of what happens outside them. That is not living. That is being operated remotely by everyone around you. Machiavelli watched this destroy powerful men consistently, not through military defeat, through emotional exploitation. Their anger made them predictable. Their pride made them manipulable. Their need to be understood made them controllable. Their enemies learned their triggers, and those triggers became leashes. The ones who survived, the ones who actually held power over years and decades, were the ones whose internal state could not be reached from the outside. And here is where Carl Jung adds something Machiavelli couldn't quite articulate. When you face and integrate the darkest parts of yourself, no one can weaponize those parts against you, because you've already claimed them. A person who has looked at their own shadow and said, "I see you, I own you," cannot be shamed into reaction by someone else pointing at it. Your triggers are a map. Every time you lose control over something someone says, that's a location marked, and anyone paying attention knows exactly where to press. So here is what you do. Identify the three things that most reliably destabilize you. Not to avoid them, to understand them. What wound are they touching? What fear do they sit on top of? Because once you see the structure of a trigger clearly, it loses its charge. Someone calls you lazy. You know what you've built. Their opinion is noise, and noise doesn't require a response. Someone misunderstands your intentions. People will always build their own narratives. Let them build. You know the truth. Nothing controls you. That is not arrogance. That is the only real freedom available to a human being. The man who cannot be provoked is not someone who feels nothing. He is someone who has felt enough to no longer be afraid of it. 7. Do nothing and win everything. The most dangerous move is the one you don't make. Chess is a game of confrontation. You eliminate the opponent's pieces. You take ground through direct assault. Most people live their entire lives playing chess, fighting every battle, responding to every threat, engaging with every challenge, because they believe that's what strength looks like. Go is a different game entirely. You don't destroy the enemy's pieces. You occupy space. You position yourself so that the opponent's territory slowly shrinks, not because you attacked it, but because you were already exactly where they needed to be. The strongest Go players win battles that never happened, Machiavelli wrote something that most people read past. Never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake. That is calculated inaction, not laziness, not cowardice. Enough patience to let someone destroy themselves without spending a single move doing it for them. Every confrontation costs something, even when you win. Every reaction burns energy. Every engagement is a withdrawal from a finite account. The person who understands this treats conflict like a serious investor treats capital, only deployed when the return is genuinely worth the risk. When someone spreads a rumor about you, the instinct is to correct it immediately, reach everyone, control the narrative. Don't. Keep working, keep producing. The truth doesn't need your help. It just needs time. And it will arrive without you having exhausted yourself defending it. When someone is trying to compete with you, do not acknowledge the race. A person who doesn't know they're being raced cannot feel the pressure of being behind. Keep moving toward your own target. They will spend themselves trying to catch something that isn't running from them. When someone is waiting for you to collapse, your continued success is the only response that matters. And it doesn't need a caption. This is how you ascend, not by climbing over people, by refusing to descend to levels that don't serve you, by conserving what others are burning, by being exactly where you need to be while everyone else is still figuring out the game. The strongest person in the room is usually the one doing the least, because they have the patience to let everything come to them. They will call you cold, good. They will say you've changed, that you used to be more open, more available, more reactive, that something happened to you. They are right. Something happened. You woke up. Machiavelli did not write The Prince to teach cruelty. He wrote it because he was tired of watching intelligent people get destroyed by a world they refused to see clearly. He wanted people to understand how power actually moves, not how we wish it moved, not the version that gets taught in schools and repeated at dinner tables. The real version. The world does not reward the most emotional person in the room. It does not reward the one who explains the most, reacts the fastest, or fights the hardest to be understood. It rewards the one who holds position, who protects what they have built, who knows exactly which battles are worth entering and which ones are designed to drain them. You are not stopping yourself from reacting because you don't care. You're doing it because you care about the right things, your time, your energy, your direction, your peace. You are not refusing to explain because you have nothing to say. You are refusing because not everyone has earned the right to hear you. You are not ignoring because you are weak. You are ignoring because you are finally strong enough to know the difference between a battle and a trap. That is not coldness. That is sovereignty. And the question that remains, the dangerous one, is this. When you have finally stopped every enemy outside from reaching you, what do you do about the one inside? The one who knows every weakness, every fear, every doubt, because it is you. See you next video.